Well, as promised, this is Steve Hubbard, and we're speaking to you from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. As you've all been witnessing for past several months, maybe over actually 4 or 5 years, I've been making a lot of postings on LinkedIn and elsewhere about the fate of what we've always known as court reporting by stenographers using the shorthand machine. This is a change like COVID-19 has changed us. How the country is going to be run from the future here on out, and how we at home and at work will be able to work and play in having to deal with the pandemic and the after effects of the pandemic. Court reporting is a time-honored vocation, and I labeled it as a vocation for the very fact that 99.9% of us, we treat it as a profession. Yes, we behave like professional people should, but the actual degree in getting a court reporting certificate from the National Court Reporters Association, which has been around for 150 years, something like that, it is facing troubled waters. It is already in troubled waters in that historically we first worked with the pen, the quill, the inkwell, and we struggled very hard to build up our speed, and we were the only record. But now the record is being taken by automated speech recognition. It went from the pen to the shorthand machine, and notwithstanding you might have 100 students in the classroom, whether it was with the pen or the shorthand machine, 95% of them flunked out. The course was the same: endurance, how to sustain high speeds of over 200 words a minute and get everything down 100%, or with a very small margin of error. Typically in the days past, maybe about 20 years ago, it was 95%. Now I think they've actually bumped the accuracy higher. Most students can't afford the schooling. The tuition is prohibitive now, as we're finding out with regular 4-year degree programs. It can be the same with machine shorthand, with very long hours struggling. How to memorize thousands of shorthand symbols and techniques with the shorthand, the fingers on the keyboard, like you would learn a piano. So what's happening is we're now working with technology like ASR, and specifically it's automated speech recognition with AI. And one program that I absolutely fell in love with about 5 years ago was Otter AI, OTTER.ai. And now we're going to go on the record here with I'm going to see if I can get my words to be transcribed, and they are. And we're also on Zoom, by the way. So I'm hoping to get some guests to come here and visit us. The time is, we are looking at the time now of 1:04 p.m. So far, I'm the only one online, and I expected as much. The background, you'll notice a lot of pictures on the wall. Well, I'm in my wife's studio. I appropriated part of it for my business, which was at one point court reporting, working for different agencies. Court reporting agencies like Esquire Deposition Solutions, Hughesby, Never did work for U.S. Legal, I think maybe just once or twice, and other firms. There are only about 5 or 6 major national firms now in the United States, and they have basically gobbled up all of the business. I'm not going to say that they collude, but they do meet regularly at a National Court Reporters Association business meeting that's held every year, or actually twice a year. I'm not saying that they collaborate and collude, but generally speaking, if you were to canvass these different agencies, you'll find out that most of them are charging the same amount of money per page or per hour. There's very little difference. It would be tantamount to the same, let's say, law firms are charging basically the same rates. But their business platform is based on technology of the 20th century, and even going back as far as the late 19th century, when the first shorthand machines, as clankety clunkers as they were, made a lot of noise, and the pen shorthand writers, Pittman and Gregg both, would run to their judges and say, "See, you don't want that noisy contraption in the courtroom. That's why you need us. We're so soft with the pen or the pencil, and we can just rip off any piece of paper and we can write and we can keep a record. These guys have to oil and crank up their machines every morning and practice, as we also have to practice." But eventually, in about the 1950s, 1960s, the pen shorthand writers gave way, and they recognized that a better automated system, not like ASR, but automation just the same, the shorthand machine, was then eventually married to the computer based on MS-DOS and other early operating systems. And you eventually had very, very good shorthand writers who would write in real time, having honed their skill, and they would write with great alacrity and accuracy, and being able to perform real time, so you could read online what is being said as the word was being spoken. And they could handle, of course, the judge, just like they did before without the computer, everyone in the courtroom, but with one caveat. They had to control the proceedings. Obviously not the legal tenor of what went on, but if the judge was over-talking with counsel, or counsel were overlapping what the judge was saying, the reporter would throw up their arms and say, "One at a time, please." Well, automated speech recognition needs the same, and you have to understand that. And it works extremely well when you're using headphones and a mouthpiece, a boom microphone like I am here. So you can expect, as you're able to see now, real time being performed with absolute, almost near 100% accuracy. Well, that's a matter that we need to understand, that as this technology is going to overpower the machine shorthand court reporter, they will not be able to compete. I'm sure there have been times when you've been a passive litigator in an action, but the insurance company has asked you to attend a deposition. So you've attended. You really didn't need the transcript, but to CYA yourself, you ordered the transcript. You paid perhaps a copy rate of maybe $2.50 per page for that copy. And in a 200-page day, for instance, or 250, a full day, 7 hours on the record, you would have spent nearly $500. $500 that your client, the insurance company, or your impoverished plaintiff that you're going to pay for, because if you came out with the usual olive branch to your client, if we do not win the case, you do not pay costs. You don't pay my fee, the lawyer's fee, and you don't pay the court reporter's fee. I'll pay it. I'm investing in the case. I'm taking a gamble that we're going to win. And if we do win, then we get your costs, my fee paid for by the insurance company. You may pay a little something, but usually the plaintiff's lawyer on a contingency fee basis does not have that kind of an arrangement. Sometimes they have a different arrangement. That's fine. Notice that Otter AI, and I'm sure other ASR AI programs can do that as well. They will bill their client at rates that are typical in the industry today. I'm talking freelance. I'm not talking about the courts who have their own employees. Mind you, there are a number of courts now across the country who are retaining, who have gotten, unfortunately, they've gotten rid of their court reporters, or they just can't find them, so they've gone, the pendulum has swung the other way. They've gone to retain outside contracting reporting agencies, to wit, regional or national companies, like I mentioned before, U.S. Legal, Planet Depots, who do depositions as well as arbitrations and court work in those states that allow freelancing in the civil arena, as well sometimes in the criminal arena. The courts don't hire their own on-staff salaried with full benefits like in Florida. They contract out to agencies that they know that can handle the volume, and they make sure that they try to retain only the best court reporters possible who are reliable and conscientious in their work. But the anvil is about to drop. The sun's anvil, which was blowing up the industry, is that, like myself, I'm 70, and I've retired basically from court reporting. So my colleagues and the NCRA, the National Court Reporters Association, they've done a study, and so has Drucker Worldwide, D-R-U-C-K-E-R, Drucker Worldwide, that 70%, starting back about 4 or 5 years ago, 70% of the existing industry of court reporters, which is mainly your veteran court reporters, who are in their mid-50s and higher, they're already retiring, have retired, and this denouement, this serious drop in the numbers of existing computer compatible court reporters who are on CAT, who have become very proficient at real-time reporting. They are retiring and getting out of the business completely, or only ending up as a back office, maybe editing work to be done by those who are remaining in the industry. The schools, when I got into reporting in 1968, there were over 260 schools in North America. And at this time, there are less than 30. I believe the numbers accurately, around 26 now. And when I say 26, I'm referring only to those schools who that are NCRA approved. I was beginning to say NSRA. That was the original name of the National Court Reporters Association. It was then known as the National Shorthand Reporters Association. And so they felt they would change their name many years ago so that they can encompass the steno machine, because shorthand implied only using Pittman or Gregg shorthand. So they thought it was best to go to try to encompass the shorthand machine. Now, with this great drop in students coming into the schools, and as I said a few minutes ago, 95%, it didn't matter if you were born black, white, brown, blue, pink, that your parents went to MIT, Harvard, Yale, or some school out in the middle of Kansas somewhere, not known to anybody else but to the local residents, a 4-year program or a university. It didn't matter what school and what kind of genes is in your DNA, but anybody who took up the shorthand machine or the pen, 95% would flunk out, would drop out long before their typical 2-year course would last and take. And shows and statistics now show that more than 95% of all students drop out within the first 6 months, because they finally realize how hard it is to studiously remember all those shorthand symbols, like going back to the days of the Civil War with those men. It was never women back then. The men learning how to use the telegraphy, Morse code. And the same was true back then. Everyone could easily pass at 10 words a minute, learn that dash or dish dash, whatever it was. They'd learn the letters and the numbers, and they could read, send, and receive at 10 words a minute. No big deal. They could learn that in 2 or 3 months, maybe sooner. The same thing with the shorthand machine. They could learn to get up to about 50, 60, 70 words a minute very easily. But like the guys in Morse code who did make the grade, and they were the 5%, like with the steno shorthand machine or the pen, the ones that made it, the 5%, these guys would be delegated to the trenches with cannons and gunfire going in every which way direction, and the general would say, telegraph the battalion to move over to the right. And if he didn't get it exactly right, a not or an in and an and or whatever the negative or positive was, that could be the end of the ball game for one side or the other. So the telegrapher had to concentrate very hard, notwithstanding what was shooting over his head at that time. The court reporter in the courtroom, likewise, in the staccato machine gun fire back and forth between counsel and the witness, like we've always heard, the poor rape victims who are testifying to prove the case that so-and-so raped them, the lawyer's duty is to really try to dismantle their testimony. And he's firing and he's being very, very tough to break that person's story to save his client from going to jail or worse. So this is a situation where I have proven here with Otter AI, actually taking samples of known tests by the National Court Reporters Association, the RMR, the Registered Merit Reporter, and the RDR, Registered Diplomat Reporter Designation certifications. These are at speeds of 270 words a minute and more. But the minimum qualifications needed by most courts and agencies, and I'll come back to that in a moment, what agencies are now doing. The courts will not hire anybody unless you've passed the minimum bar, which is the RPR, Registered Professional Reporter, and that's only at 225 words per minute. But then again, I'm telling you that 95% of all court reporters who have taken 3 and some have taken 4 years of practice, building up their speed of like the Morse code of sending and receiving, to taking it down to read back what they took down against a tape and make sure they got everything correctly. This is a losing proposition. The shorthand machine has seen its day in the sun, and that's it. Now, what court reporting agencies are doing now, because of the pressures of no one graduating from the schools are closing down because they can't attract enough people to do it. Nobody wants to learn the shorthand machine. They've probably seen enough already of examples of, talking to your iPhone and Siri will transcribe what you're saying. So they're obviously playing that card, and they understand I'm not an idiot to spend $50,000 to go to a private court reporting school and try to learn a system that I know I may not have any job when I get out, because Otter AI or other utilities such as Otter AI will have replaced me, and the door is closed, and it will be closed. That's inevitable. So I'm going to take a look here at my time. I said it would be, okay, I've got 9 more minutes. The program would go for about a half an hour, and I hope that once a week I'm going to have this on every Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, a half an hour show. And I hope to invite lawyers. I'm inviting lawyers and judges and court administrators to take a look at what I'm putting out here. And you can go to my LinkedIn and look up Steve Hubbard on LinkedIn, Hubbard, and see the many postings. As a matter of fact, a lot of the agencies, the court reporting agencies that are now have got a great footprint in America, their own, of course. They have been visiting my LinkedIn postings, as well as many lawyers have been doing so. And in next week, I will put those up for your consideration, that it is happening. So that court reporting is changing. And if court reporters today don't understand that fact and want to learn with what ASRAI has got to offer, you're going to be left out in the cold, because already lawyers are being told, whether they work for an insurance carrier or they are a plaintiff's lawyer's office, when they can see how real time in many of my postings have demonstrated that they can have a working rough draft transcript as they're watching the screen as you're watching this now, and they can see that on their Zoom deposition or their Zoom hearing, and they can have the left side of their screen monitor be the Zoom meeting, so they can see the judge and the other litigants, or you're in a deposition scenario. But on the right side, they have started their own Otter AI real-time transcript. And as soon as the deposition, arbitration, the courtroom hearing has terminated, these are your legal notes. I'm sure that no judge is going to come out and say to you, hey, you can't do this. When you're in my courtroom, I don't stop you from taking legal notes with your own pen and paper. Everybody has legal notes. The judge takes legal notes up on the bench. So why would a judge prevent you from using a legal tool, which makes all the more sense, and instead of having your client pay for real time, which typically is charged at roughly $1.25 in some areas of the country to $2 per page for real time per hookup per party. that could be anywhere from $400 to $500 just for the real time. And guess what? It's not verifiable because they have not linked the audio to the words that you see coming up on your screen when a court reporter gives it to you. They're only giving you the words, the text, whereas Otter AI is right as you are speaking, each one taking their turn, of course, question, answer, question, whatever the case is. Those words are hyperlinked. They're synced with the audio. It's audio synchronized right there in the Otter cloud, so that when you go back to your file that you create in real time, you'll be able to resurrect that file. And where Otter AI messed up in not converting the right word that you said, it doesn't matter because you've got the sound behind the word that will, of course, tell you, well, that's what was said, so I can rely on that. And then you go ahead and copy paste what you need out of there, bring it into Microsoft Word or WordPerfect, or in my case, we use here at the office OpenOffice. It's free. It's open source technology. And then you can share files with opposing counsel. Also, you can go into the share button and of Otter and share that transcript with people on your staff or whomever. It makes perfect sense that as we are now entering into and out of the COVID-19, and God knows what else is coming down around the corner, but it's patently clear that we're all headed into a realm, a new normal that it'll behoove you to know Otter AI. It is just so cheap. It's absurd how cheap it is. $10 a month for a premium account, or for a legal business, an enterprise account, it's a little bit more. But you can have, for $10 a month, the equivalent of 4,000 pages of transcript. Let me get here. There we go. So 4,000 pages of transcript at $2 a page, or $1 per page, that's $4,000. $4,000, and you're going to get a whole month or more. And if you want more than that, if you have several partners in the firm who are all litigators, each open up an account at $10 a month, and you'll have, for $40 a month, $100 a month, you'll have 60, 70,000 pages of transcript. And then you can share the transcript with your colleagues. And if those who are on a deposition or a courtroom, and you have 5 or 6 counsel, all representing different parties, you all start up your own Otter on your own screen, get your own transcript, but notice the time here, 24:47. Down here, the same numbers, they're in real time. Note those times of words that you want to be able to go back to later on and review. And by the way, just to show you, I'm going back in time here. Yes, you can go back in time all the way back to the beginning of when I started. And now you can go back and say, aha, that's what he said. That's true, that's what he said. Well, I want to verify that later. So and then to jump back into real time, you go like this, and you're back into real time. So I think we're coming now to the end of my first maiden voyage, and that's pretty much it. So I thank you very much. It's too bad nobody joined us here, but we will do it again, and I'm convinced that that day will come. Have a good one. Thank you.